What on earth are you doing now, Daddy?
And we're back on the lathe for a bit of experimenting. Let's see how we get on with this big old log. My starting point is this big lump of trunk off a Holm oak tree. It wasn't a big tree, this was the main stem, and you can see it's hollow in the end. It's got a hole in there. So I thought I'd make a vase, and it was whether I turn it into a vase this way up, which might be a bit unstable, or whether I have it as a wide base vase, a bit like a decanter. Anyway, I'm still thinking on that. I'm going to have to chop these bits off, obviously. It'd just be unsafe turning with those on there. So we're going to get rid of those and see what I'm left with. I'm using one of the branches I cut off the trunk to make this plug. All will become obvious in the end what this is for, but I'm trying to get a nice even taper on this and squaring off the ends. So using a spindle roughing gouge and a parting tool. Just make sure it's all nice and even and flat, and then putting it into the SC4 chuck to finish it off. I've created a tenon on that end for the chuck, using the tool rest as my taper guide there. Just make sure the end's true. We've then got the main trunk on the lathe between centres. Got a spur drive on there at the minute. And I'm using various tools just to create a tenon on the end. That then goes into the chuck. These heavy duty jaws I'm using. And I spend a bit of time just balancing it up. Lots of work with the spindle roughing gouge. This is the big chunky one from Record Power. Just getting it roughly to round. And then I'm switching here to a bowl gouge. Although with spindle turning, I've got grain running in multiple directions where those branches come off. So I'm just using the a bowl gouge here for doing this bit of the shaping. Trying to run downhill wherever I can. As I say, the grain is running in many directions here. I then switch to a spindle gouge. This is one of the new ones from Record Power. I'm just turning that to the final shape, cutting downhill all the while. It's quite easy to turn this wood because it was quite wet. I mean, it's easy to turn, but it does present its own problems, of course. The idea with this was I was wet turning it and was then going to obligatory slow-mo shot, of course. I was wet turning it with a view to drying it from the inside out. Nearing the final shape, I've got that sort of decanter shape going on here. Then I've got my steady resting position. And I'm starting hollowing using an Easywood Tools number 1 hollower to begin with. And now auger bit in the Jacob's chuck, just using the tailstock. A very long auger bit then, because I'm going right up the stem of the vase. Then I start hollowing using the Hope Pro hollower. So I want this base hollowed out as much as I can. There's a limit to how much, because obviously the bark intrudes in places. And once I've done that, I've created a tapered opening, which my plug that I made in the first part of the video then fits into. Needs a little bit of fettling. Then onto the Easywood Tools number 3 hollower, just for going around that corner. It's got a nice hook on the end of this tool. Here I've put that plug into the chuck, and I'm using a spindle reversing mount there, so I can mount the chuck in the tailstock. I'm doing this because it means I can position that plug perfectly lined up to go in that hole, which is quite important for the next stage. Here I'm using some Star Bond CA glue. This is the thick CA glue. They sent me a big box of different glues. There'll be a discount code in the video description if you want to get some. Very impressed with it actually. It worked a treat for this. But I'm putting quite a thick line of that in there. Here's the box they sent me. Accelerator and several different ones in different thicknesses and different colours. As you can see, blacks, browns, clear. Came in very handy over Christmas. Here I am fixing a few of the Christmas ornaments that ran into trouble. And just using a little bit of their glue and a bit of the accelerator. So that's Tinkerbell's head fixed. And now the glass Christmas tree all fixed. Back to the wood turning project. And I'm actually, I've got the glue in place and I'm using the tailstock to actually seat that plug, pushing it home, and it keeps it running true because that plug is going to form the tenon when I reverse it round. Bit of accelerator, I left it a while, tailstock away, then I turned the whole thing round and mounted that tenon in the chuck, so I'm at the other end of the vase now. Going to part off the original tenon and I'm going to shape the mouth of the vase. So parted that off and I'm using I think that's a number 1 hollower Easy Wood tools I'm just using there. Well, here I am over a week later than when I parted this off. Didn't go quite as planned because as I was parting it off I got a migraine and it was a really bad one and put me out of action for almost 2 days. So I just had to abandon this in the workshop and I then sort of left it for a week. I've forgotten about it and I've come out today and it has of course split. My original plan after finishing it was to wrap this in cling wrap or cling film so that it dried from the outside because it's hollow, to minimise splitting. It doesn't really matter, it was never going to hold water, and in some ways the splits add to the character of it, but I was just a bit disappointed I didn't really do it as planned. The splitting has been much reduced by the fact that I hollowed it. If I hadn't hollowed it, this bottom section here would have split wide open. In fact, the splitting is less in this lower section than up in the main stem of the vase. But first time I've turned Holm oak, it was very wet, tons of water coming out of it as I was turning it. Enjoyed doing it. There we are. I'll put some stills up at the end so you can have a closer look. I haven't finished the base yet, I've got to sand that off and put my logo on. The grain will probably gradually raise as it dries and it might need some hand sanding. Once it's dried out a lot more, I will oil it. I'll give it an oil finish. There you go. Decanter style vase. Back soon with some more videos. Many thanks for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. Please like, share and subscribe if you haven't already done so. It costs nothing to subscribe, and if you hit that bell icon you'll be notified when I put out future videos. I've got some more videos lined up. Next time something very different, still creative but very, very different. I look forward to seeing you all soon.
That could have gone better, Daddy. Please like, share and subscribe. My daddy needs all the help he can get. More rubbish coming soon.